coffee, just having coffee in your hand and just sipping it, it just immediately breaks the ice. If it's like a first time meeting, a business person or just like a friendship, I think it almost just breaks down those barriers, and having that coffee in their hand is like, it's like this warm cup of joy in your hand. You just sit back, relax, and people open up around coffee.
Coffee for me is kind of one of those things where you can come together and just kind of share something that's great.
Friendly conversation. I feel like that's part of being a barista, is also part of being in the hospitality.
Coffee for me is when I'm out on the trail. I love hiking, I love exploring, so around a campfire, brewing up some coffee, a little pour over.
It's definitely a way for people to just talk and not bring in some of those things that can be stressors. It's a way to relax.
I think coffee brings people together. I love the community, like human connection that coffee can bring to people.
At my shop, we had like a long table bar set up next to the espresso machine, so half the time I'm making drinks, half the time I'm just talking. We got a lot of tourists and a lot of regulars, and each one I would get to hear everybody's stories.
I think everybody has a story, and sharing those stories, people just learn about other people's lives. So that human connection, I think, is incredible around coffee.
This is still a consistent in my life, even though it looks different. There's still that community aspect, and it's like, oh, I know that this is kind of part of a broader sense of what's going on around me.
Although with COVID, a lot of shops have closed down, I have been able to meet up and just say, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee, and then we talk about what's going on in life. Even if you can't do it in person, then I've definitely done it over social media.
I've always felt a sense of comfort. My parents grew up drinking a lot of coffee. My grandparents, I remember my great-grandma always having a cup of coffee.
My dad always drank coffee. In the morning, he took us to school. So we wake up and there's always the smell of coffee. So that's like my first recollection of coffee, and I hated it.
There's nostalgia and comfort in coffee for me, and so even on the days where I'm just like virtual schooling my kids, or things in the grander scheme of life are just going bananas, just having that comfort of like, okay.
But I always wanted to share that with them driving to school. So I would sip on it and act like I liked it. So it was just that connection, I think, with my dad is my first recollection of coffee. And now fast forward many, many years later, my son Jasper and I get to share in coffee.
I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna have this hot coffee, it's gonna be like, and Deeper Roots stands on its own, which is nice too, because it's just like, I just get to enjoy the flavors.
To think about the process and the hard work that goes into getting that coffee bean and making it into my cup, like that whole process, thinking about that whole process. Is mind-blowing, I feel,
I've met a friend at Deeper Roots weekly for the last 6 years now. And then when COVID hit, of course, that all took a pause. Coffee kind of shifted what it meant in terms of community in a broader sense. That idea of I go to the coffee shop and I go get my coffee and I'm surrounded by community because I'm working there and I run into people that I know, to that reminder of there is community still that is out there, and with everything changing and everything developing in crazy ways, that there's this one constant and this one comfort.
That process, I love.